Welcome to TypeScript FM, the friendly podcast for TypeScript developers where we bring you news, updates, and interviews from the community with plenty of tomfoolery sprinkled in. I'm your host, Kamran Ayub, and I'm joined by my co-host and best bud, Eric Onerheim. Together, we're the two TypeScript fools. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Woo, woo, woo. What's up?
Oh, not a whole lot. I managed to go out for a run today.
Sweet.
In the cold.
It wasn't like 10 degrees or something?
It was like 10 degrees, and I wasn't wearing enough clothes. And, I actually had quite a bit of ice accumulation on my beard and mustache. I should have taken a photo of it.
Look like a frozen Yeti?
Yeah. Less attractive than a frozen Yeti, okay. I think, though. Yep. I think there were like booger icicles and all that jazz. You know, I got these Hoka speed goats with the tungsten lugs in the sole of the shoe. It's like built into the shoe, so like I'm not worried about falling over.
They're really
as much.
They're really called speed goats.
Yeah, that's the name of the shoe. It's like I got the speed goat plus.
Okay,
it's the one. Normally they're just rubber lugs on the sole. But these ones are for running on ice and snow.
Okay.
So they actually have like tungsten teeth.
Oh, wow.
Built into the shoe.
Okay.
And it'll chew up your floor. So you have to put them on the rug and then walk outside.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. It's sort of like you have little mini snowshoes on your feet.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
It's like if you've ever seen those like yak tracks or those kind of like, it's like a rubber band with tungsten teeth on it that you can put on your shoes like on the outside. It's a lot like that, but it's built into the shoe.
Yeah. We got snowshoes last winter, and so I'm excited to break those out because we're getting plenty of snow. That's what happened last week is we got a lot of snow.
Oh well,
more is coming down right now.
Yeah, it's snowing right now, and we're supposed to get even more apparently over the next few days. So that's going to be great because I've already shoveled like 3 times.
I know. I feel it. And I don't have a machine to do it for me. I use my human muscles.
Mm-hmm. My human muscles are weak. I felt it this last time. I was just like, my arms were just like noodles afterwards.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, I'm just like a little noodle man.
You know what? Mine were fine. And I think it's because for the past year, me and my wife have been doing strength training like 3 to 5 days a week.
That probably helps.
Yeah. So there was no problems that I had.
My strength training is lifting my daughter.
That's a good way.
But I feel like it's a different muscle group than shoveling.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yep. Well, what else is new?
Well, our contributors have been extremely busy doing some new Excalibur Playground stuff in our docs. So thank you, Chris. And then also thank you. You helped a ton too.
I did do a little bit. Yep. Took care of the infra, the DevOps.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's pretty cool. It's we have this new iframe like playground code editor thing that will just show up and show code. First party. It's built with Monaco and all that. Chris has really taken and run with it and like really enhanced it like above and beyond. So it's been really cool.
Yep.
In other good news, the GameDev.js survey is out and Excalibur's on the official list this year of GameDev.js frameworks that you can select on the survey. So go do that.
Nice. Well, guess what happened finally last week for me?
What happened finally?
My course got published.
You have been working so hard on that.
Yes. So
I haven't seen you for a while.
I know. It's because the course was technically late, but that's okay. Sometimes it happens. But yeah, so it's released. So this is the MCP in practice course. You do have to be a Pluralsight subscriber. It's not available for free, but if your employer has a subscription, you should have access. And then there's also individual subscriptions, and there is like a 14-day trial or 10-day trial or something like that. So if you just want to watch it, you can go ahead. I've already talked about it before, but just briefly, it is a enterprise-focused MCP course where we actually build an MCP server in Azure and locally. But by the end of the course, you actually have one that's running in Azure with OAuth in front of it. So you can do single sign-on for employees using Azure AD, also known as Microsoft Entra. So it's written in .NET and C#, but there's one place where there's TypeScript in it. And we do use Node.js because we do use the MCP inspector to do debugging and stuff like that. So it's a polyglot course. It's to teach the fundamentals of MCP. So, it's fairly basic in terms of, I don't go into too much detail about how the app logic actually works. But all the source code's available. And source code is Apache 2 open source. And the repo is just go to my GitHub and you'll find it. So if you can't take the course or you don't want to take the course and you just want the code, show me the code. You can go do it. Go get it.
What does your MCP do?
So it's a time off and absence planning MCP tool. So think of Workday as an MCP server is basically what my inspiration was.
Without having to work with Workday.
Yeah. So there's a backend API that is a mock API that's supposed to represent Workday, and you can tell that that would never be a good MCP server by itself. So part of the course is showing why you can't really just wrap an API. You can't expose endpoints as MCP tools directly, because if you did that, it would allow admin access to the HRM, right? Because it's it takes employee ID as a parameter to the endpoint, right? So I could pass in the CEO's employee ID and I could request time off for them, right? So the MCP server itself acts as a backend, right? That protects that API layer. So you don't have to expose that publicly. Just the MCP server is exposed publicly. But then we add OAuth in front of it so that it actually does single sign-on and delegation so that the MCP server is always running as the employee, and the MCP server ensures that the HRM API is only ever called with that current employee's ID. You can never, it's a protected backend. So anyway, that's kind of the deal. And so it was a lot of fun. Now, the one thing I will mention is that there was supposed to be a course before it in the path, which was the introduction to MCP course, because mine is the second one. But I was told that, unfortunately, that one's not coming out until mid-January. So there is a little bit of prerequisite knowledge that's assumed. So if you start taking the course and you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what the spec is, unfortunately, you might have to wait until that comes out. But I know you all are really, really smart, and I'm sure you'll be able to get it pretty quickly. I would say that MCP is not super complicated, but it's a pretty easy spec to read. So I think you'll get the gist of it pretty quickly once you see it in action. And that's basically what the course is geared towards. So yeah, that is out. I'm very excited. I'm on to the next course, which the first module's due first week of January. And that one's going to be the advanced MCP course. So we're going to go a little bit farther into more of the networking, into the server-initiated requests like elicitation, sampling, stuff like that. Stateful, because this one is stateless. So we'll build a stateful MCP server in the advanced course. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah. Super. Whew. Yeah, it's never ending.
Yeah. All right. There's a lot of news to talk about. So we should probably be quiet and start talking about what is on everybody's mind this past few weeks, because there's a lot of stuff that happened.
A ton of news. In fact, a whole bunch of news dropped in the middle of the day here, and we were like, okay, well, we can't record. We got to wait for the news to finish.
Yep. All right. Well, let's start with the first one, which is that Bun got acquired by Anthropic. So that's very interesting.
It is extremely interesting.
Yeah. So you can go read the blog post. It talks about, what's changing, what's not changing. Basically, what's not changing is keeping the current team intact and keeping the same cadence. But of course, what is changing is leveraging Anthropic's scale to add more resources to Bun and remove the need for a runway. So we knew that Bun was a startup, and one of the questions that's been on everybody's mind is, what happens when the money runs out? Well, that no longer is really a question. So yeah, it's tied to Anthropic's fate, right? So something could happen to Anthropic, but that's outside of Bun's control. So yeah, so I think this is going to lend a little bit more sort of less risky to adopt Bun in production now. And then you have Anthropic's name behind it. It's Anthropic's Bun now, right? So I don't know. Maybe companies will be more inspired to push it to production and use it. Now, the motivation, which actually does make a lot of sense, is that for Anthropic's AI tools, they want a self-contained, vertically integrated ecosystem, right? And Bun, which we have highlighted before when we talked about runtimes, Bun is really good at the whole like integrated DevX experience. And it's also got like SQLite bindings. I think it doesn't have Postgres too, or MySQL, one of the...
Yeah, they have a little bit of everything thrown in there.
Yeah. So agents can then work with just a simplified toolchain to do all sorts of stuff, right? So anyway, that's one of the reasons that they gave for like why Anthropic bought them. So yeah, the too long didn't read. Bun has been acquired by Anthropic. Anthropic is betting on Bun as the infrastructure powering Claude Code, Claude Agent SDK, and future AI coding products and tools. So guess we'll see where that goes. Huh?
It'll be really interesting. And, you know, if I were to put on my tinfoil hat for a hot second, you know, this does mean that Bun's mission is no longer their own. And now Bun will be serving the, you know, Claude Code, Claude Agent, and AI coding products, you know, above all else in their roadmap, on top of, you know, their original mission, which was to be the fastest JavaScript runtime and a drop-in Node replacement.
Yes. Yep. So, I mean, in the blog post, they say that being a drop-in Node replacement is still, you know, one of the goals. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, how does the motivations for Anthropic affect, like, what features and stuff get put into Bun and where the investments get made as it sort of goes through time, you know? Like, yeah, right now, you know, everything is pretty much the same, but it's probably going to change down the road in like a year.
Yeah. And, you know, the future remains to be seen, but certainly this is probably great news for Bun.
Yes.
And the folks at Bun.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure they're very happy about it. I think it'll be interesting. We need to do some sort of, 2026 type of like landscape review or something like that, because this does change the landscape quite a bit, I would say. Because as far as like companies are concerned, this pushes Bun from like, it's a risky startup to maybe, we could actually bet the horse on Bun now. We can start building some CLIs and agent tools or blah, blah, blah with them. And then that compares it to like Dino now. So now you're going to, if you're evaluating which one you're going to use, are you going to use the one that's purchased by one of the top AI companies in the world, or are you going to bet it on Dino, right? So that does change the landscape.
Yeah, how much money is in the war chest now,
right? Yep.
Being funded by Anthropic, you know, like, and then, I don't have any idea of what their internal finances are at Anthropic, but I imagine there's a lot of money flowing towards them.
Yes. I think what else is interesting is what is Microsoft going to do? What's OpenAI going to do, right? Are they going to acquire somebody, or are they going to build their own thing? So it'll be interesting to see what happens now. Yeah. All right. Should we move on to new stuff in Vite land?
Yeah, there's some exciting stuff in Vite land. The first thing that we have is Vite 8 beta just dropped, and this is the first one that's Rolldown powered. TLDR, Rolldown is the new Rust rewrite of Rollup, which is blazingly fast. In fact, 10 to 30 times faster than Rollup. And their goal is to have the same plugin API as Rollup and Vite. And so most Vite plugins just work out of the box. It's also going to unlock more features. Rolldown has more than just parity. It's got, including like full bundle mode. It's got flexible split chunk control, module level cache, module federation, and more. Their blog post is amazing. You know, in the past, Vite had relied on two bundlers, right? They used ESBuild in the development builds, which powered that really quick iteration cycle. And then they had Rollup for the production builds, because that was the high-powered, like really well optimized production build. Now we have just one. which is going to be great for everyone involved, because I know you and I have run into bugs or different behavior from like the dev mode and the prod mode in Vite before. And those are, to be fair, those are kind of corner cases, but we tend to find the corners doing the stuff that we do. But this is going to be huge, because this means you get the speed and the power all in one, and it's looking exciting. I think we're going to be trying this
very soon.
ASAP.
Yeah, I actually have a draft branch and PR out on Excalibur to add TypeScript Go support. So it's already in the editor, but I've been waiting on Vite 8 and Rolldown to get out of preview, or at least to get stable enough that we can start adopting it. One thing that we did do, which is related, is that tsdown had a new release, and we are actually using tsdown to compile the playground, the new Excalibur playground. And we did actually run into like a difference in something that we needed to do, because Eric likes to use shader GLSL, and that requires a special loader. And so we were able to get that working. And then we also were able to get CSS working. But one thing that is not implemented yet, or at least wasn't when we tried it, is that there's no inlining or handling of CSS as a loader like type. So instead, you can extract it. You can externalize the CSS as a file instead of putting it into the bundle. So that was the one change, but luckily we don't actually need any CSS in the playground to get that working. So for right now, we're just, skipping over the CSS. We just ignore it. But that allowed us to use tsdown. But hopefully they'll be adding support for import attributes in the future. So then that just solves a lot of these problems with like different loader types. Because then you can just say, import my GLSL file with, shader. Like I want GLSL loader for that. So you don't have to do fancy Vite config to get that working. Yeah. So tsdown, very exciting. There's a new 0.17 release, I think, for that. And then along with that, we have got oxlint. Type-aware linting has a new alpha. So for this one, this is a linting alternative to like ESLint or Biome. And you might know that both ESLint and Biome have type-aware linting, but oxlint is using the new tsgo lint. And so it's built already on top of tsgo. And the too long didn't read that they have in their blog post here is that oxlint's type-aware linting has reached alpha status. Type-aware rules can now be manually configured, disabled with comments, and fixed automatically. This milestone also includes more rule coverage, TypeScript diagnostics reporting, and type checking while linting. And then along with that, if that wasn't enough, oxfmt, oxfmt, was also released in alpha, bringing 30 times faster formatting compared to Prettier, and a pretty easy migration, is what they say.
This is huge for us because we have post-commit hooks effectively in the commit pipeline for us.
Yep.
And we wait for like 10,000 years for some of that stuff to finish.
Yes.
So this will be huge for those of us that are using like post-commit hooks to make sure that the formatting is just not an issue.
Yeah. So this is all really exciting stuff for Vite.
This is extremely cool.
Really happy to see this. Cool. Was there anything else we wanted to cover with Vite, or should we move on to some of the security stuff that happened last week?
No, let's move on to the security.
Okay.
There's a lot of JavaScript has taken its lumps. Let's just put it that way. So let's hop into it.
Yeah.
So PSA, starting out, there is going to be a security release in Node December 15th. So this is a pre-release. We don't know what's in it. This is just gird your loins, prepare, because there are 3 high sevs, 1 low sev, and 1 medium, and it's hitting all of the release lines. And it's going to be announced December 15th. So just mark your calendar that you're going to be updating your node on December 15th.
Yeah, and this is get those PRs to your GitHub actions ready. Your setup node action. Get your MVM RCs updated and ready. Get your local dev environment, ready to upgrade. There's I'm sure companies are like, are you serious? Like right before the holiday season?
Mm-hmm.
We have to deal with this.
Yep.
But yeah, so just get ready for that.
Yeah. And if you haven't heard yet, moving on to maybe the big security headliner, there is a React server component exploit affecting all implementations of React server components. So you're not safe anywhere. Well, you're more safe some places and less safe others.
Yeah, and we should talk about that so people know. But this is what you've probably been hearing as React2Shell. So if you go to React2Shell.com, it gives you a full overview of the exploit. But if you check out the React blog, it has all the information. At a high level, it affects any React 19 release line. So if you're using React 19, you have to upgrade. Now, if your app's React code does not use a server, then your app is not affected by this vulnerability. If your app does not use a framework bundler or bundler plugin that supports React server components, then you're not affected by this vulnerability. So in my case, I'm using React 18, so I'm not affected by this, and I don't use React server components. Luckily, not affected by this. But if you're using Next.js 15 plus, any Next.js 15 plus is affected by this. In addition, there is a canary version of Next.js 14, which is also affected by this. And so we'll also link to the Next.js blog where they go into what are the commands you need to run, what are the packages you need to update to. It's basically all the minor bug versions of each release line is what you should be updating to.
Yeah, and I want to really lay some extra gravitas on this. This is a 10 out of 10 on the CVE scale. This is extremely exploitable. It is easy to do to others, and the impact is extremely high. So it's a remote code execution vulnerability, which means an attacker, if they know or if they're just probing, can run code on your server just by shooting well-crafted JSON at it. And this is a classic deserialization attack. .NET had one of these, JSON.NET had one of these a few years back, but it's the same kind of idea. It tricks the server runtime into deserializing a malicious payload and executing a function which will do anything. So you can just require some process, the node process, and do some exec, and you can start execing stuff.
Yeah.
And
child process.
You can do whatever.
Spawn sync, calc.exe.
I would like to run some calculators.
Yes.
No, I'm going to do terrible, terrible things.
Yes.
There are a couple great blog posts on this. The React blog has a great blog post on this. We said the Next.js Security Advisory has a great blog post on this. Believe it or not, the Dino blog post on this is extremely good and talks about how this, RCE was mitigated in Dino. And, if you're interested in that aspect of it and how Dino deploy mitigated this specific attack. But if you're looking for the quick, pithy video to show to your leadership, Low Level has a great YouTube video demonstrating the POC and explaining it in pretty plain English, how it's done. It's spooky. Yeah. He reboots a VM in record time.
Yes.
So
yeah, it is, like you said, it's a OWASP top 10 insecure deserialization attack. So this is affecting React server components. I would not be too surprised if other RPC frameworks that use JavaScript could also be affected by this. We just don't know it quite yet. But I bet you anything, somebody right now is probing for that. Yeah. So just be aware.
Be suspicious of server-side rendering right now.
Uh-huh. Now, it's called React2Shell, which is actually named after Log2Shell, which was a vulnerability in Log4j for Java, and then also Log4net, I think, in .NET. And believe it or not, me and Eric both lived through that in production. We had to update our servers at General Mills, I think, was where we were working. And that's when that exploit came out. So
it was a busy time.
So I know it's trendy to blame JS. You shouldn't use JS as a backend, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you shouldn't, but not really for this reason. I would say for performance reasons, maybe you don't want to. But the thing is that the DX is really good and no backend is safe. Mm-hmm. In security, there are no guarantees. I don't care who you are. If anyone tells you that something is 100% secure, they're lying through their teeth. There's no possible way that anything is 100% secure. Just because there's the attack surface is so big for the web. I've seen there's stuff that you would not believe that people can do.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, so Log4Shell was for Java. There was another one for .NET because it also used Log4Net. And then, like Eric said, there was type name handling for JSON.NET. So if you used anything other than type name handling .none, then you could be vulnerable or would be vulnerable if you were deserializing anything that you got from the browser. Because people could craft a payload that could spawn a remote code exploit. Again, just a reminder that all user input is untrusted. You should never trust any user input. That includes JSON payloads to your web server. That is user input. It's not just HTTP parameters to your endpoint. It is the actual JSON payloads as well.
Well, and deserializers are, kind of a well-known attack vector. Like, if you have any kind of reflective capabilities in a language, or even if you don't, you can craft malicious payloads for deserializers. Best case scenario, you craft like a denial of service payload, for you as the hoster. But worst case is you have a RCE.
Yep. Funny enough, just a couple of years ago, JSON.NET was susceptible to DDoS attacks because it allowed basically infinite nested complex objects. So then they added a max depth field to mitigate that. So yeah, I mean, whatever backend you're using, it's possible, and it's possible that there could be an attack like this. It's not just JavaScript. So it's important to remember that if you are hearing things from your team and other developers, we got to move off of JavaScript as a backend. Well, maybe, but probably not for this reason. Like, yeah, this is bad, but it's happened before. No matter where you go.
And whatever language du jour, there's a vulnerability in it. There's no vulnerability proof language or technology stack.
Yep. All right. So related to this is that Cloudflare had an outage on December 5th. And it was for about 25 minutes, so it wasn't as huge as the one on November 18th, I believe is when that one was. I was affected by that one. I think most of us were. Yeah. This one was for 25 minutes, but it was unfortunately the same root cause as the earlier one because it affected their first generation proxy layer, whatever they call it, FL1, I think. And it was because they were rolling out a mitigation for React2Shell for their customers. And unfortunately, they made a change, another config change, and it got pushed to all the servers, and everything went to heck for about 25 minutes, and then they were able to restore it.
Yep. And they have a good blog post about it. And, it's just another piece of evidence that distributed systems are hard. And there can be emergent effects that are hard to predict or even test for. Arguably, this one maybe could have been foreseen, but it's good to read these and understand why things happen so that in your own systems, you can be prepared and know what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
Moving on to maybe a holiday-themed security event. Socket posted a blog post talking about Elf stats, malicious NPM packages, and we saw this via Sarah Gooding. Thank you on Blue Sky for bringing this to our attention. But roughly speaking, this is a bunch of holiday-themed malicious packages to do Elf on the shelf data exfil.
Nice. So, Elf
spam data exfil.
And they're auto-generated, right? And they're being published rapidly.
Yeah. It was let's get some Elf stats, and it looked like it was attempting to look like a whimsical holiday thing, but it was really just straight up data exfiltration, and it was trying to scoop up. It's just grabbing the opt directory off your machine and trying to shoot it at some URL. Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Nice. Well, it sounds like if you're on Windows, you're safe.
I don't know if that's true.
No, I'm sure not. That's funny.
That's absolutely wild. This is, no bueno. Funny.
Don't install any Elf packages.
Yeah. Be suspicious. Elf stats, Aurora Candy, Elf stats, Cheery Satchel, Elf stats, Cozy Stockpile, Elf stats, Silvered Ornament, Elf stats, Snow Dusted Sparkler.
Boy.
Lstats, Sparkly Hammer.
Probably using an LLM to generate all the names.
Yeah. This is wild. Yeah. Now, check out the blog post. I kind of got a kick out of it, but they published like hundreds of packages in this way. So they were just trying to flood the zone.
Santa's little elves come to attack the supply chain.
The last one, you notice a security theme lately. The last one is from an author named Lyra from lyra.horus, who discovered as far as I can tell, novel clickjacking vulnerability using SVG filters to show an SVG over the top of things and steal your clicks to do bad things. They have a really scary example of hiding like a clickjack as a fake CAPTCHA to get you to enter in secret information that you should only see. So there's like honestly, check out their blog post. An extremely, extremely compelling example of how they can detect the colors on the screen and get information about the screen that you're looking at based on how you're clicking. Yeah, this is pretty rough. They claim in this that they managed to pull this attack off against Google Docs. And so this is huge. They got a bug bounty from Google for this. So this is super real and super scary. So you should definitely take a look at this and understand how it works in your own web apps and be afraid of SVGs.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That is wild. Oh boy. See, this is what I mean. Like clickjacking is, yet another avenue that people can mess with your website. And that doesn't require any back end. That's all just front end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, just wild stuff with SVGs.
Uh-huh.
Like, dang. Like I knew SVGs were cool, but now they're scary cool.
Mm-hmm. Not fun. I think if you want to be very, very humbled, you just need to read some blogs on web security and be very sad that you're like, oh my God, everything is broken. There's nothing that is secure ever.
Nothing is safe.
All right. Should we move on to community highlights?
Yeah, we should.
Well, first up from Temitope Yedele. Sorry, I'm sure I did not pronounce that correctly. On the Log Rocket blog, has a really great article on tRPC versus oRPC. Which is better for your next TypeScript project and why? We haven't really done a deep dive on some of these RPC libraries, but tRPC is probably the most popular right now, which is TypeScript Remote Procedure Call. But there's a new one, oRPC, and that one is a little bit different. And, even I'm not quite sure what the full differences are, but that's why you should read the blog post. And at some point, we'll come back and we'll cover some of these RPC libraries. But I read through, the first half of it. It was very informative, and they even go and explain, like, here's what RPC means if you are not familiar with how that works. React server functions are a form of RPC. So it's good to know like how that works. So I recommend go checking that blog post out. Next up on Blue Sky, I saw that John Franey posted a article on how to test a Vue composable with TypeScript. And I'm not a Vue developer, and I'm not sure what a Vue composable is. But if you're a Vue developer, John has you covered. So apparently they need to be instantiated in a certain way that makes them a little hard to test. And so he's created a utility and I think even a library on basically wrapping composables and being able to test them. I think the closest thing I can think of in my case is like a React hook. Usually you have to wrap it with like a component or something like that. And I use a testing library that makes it easy to test hooks. So I think it's kind of a similar deal with Vue composable. All right. Next up, another thing I saw on Blue Sky, and I think Fabian Hillar wanted to go under the radar with this one, but I said, that's not going to happen. We're going to talk about it on the podcast. So if you've used Solid.js, then you might be a fan of the Form API that they have. And Fabian was the one who created that, and now he's ported it to React. So it's Formisch for React. So the library is called Formisch. That's Formisch. And he just released
Formisch.
it. Yeah, Formisch. So he just released it, and he did a quiet release for that. But you can go check that out. So I think if you are looking for a nice form library for React, then you should definitely go check that out, because apparently the one from Solid.js is really popular.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having a good form library pays dividends.
Mm-hmm. It does.
If you are looking for something fun to do this holiday season, Dino has something for you. They are starting a blog series about building a browser game, and they'll be adding new articles over the course of this month about how to build a game using with a web server, a game loop, and all that. They're building kind of like a jumping dinosaur game that you might be familiar with. But the first post is out, and check it out. It's very neat. It shows you how to get that server going in the server framework Oak, which is hosted on JSR, which is just a simple middleware framework for handling HTTP and Dino, Node, and Bun, and Cloudflare workers.
Yeah, it's I believe Oak is very similar to like Express.js for Node. So correct me if I'm wrong, but this is building a game from scratch, right? And not using like a library or framework.
That is a great question. They haven't gotten to the game code, as far as I can tell, yet. Okay. They're kind of building up the foundation. So we're just serving up the base application in Dino right now. But, maybe they'll use Excalibur. Who knows, That would be cool.
That would be sweet. That's what you should use, Excalibur. That's what we're telling you.
That'd be really cool.
All right.
That'd be really neat.
Fun. You saw something else that was kind of neat for Node, didn't you?
Yes. This is pretty slick. Via Rob Palmer, a hybridist, just landed support for package imports in Node that start with the hash and slash. This is kind of nice because previously this prefix was special cased and it would error in Node, but it's kind of nice to use for like internal absolute paths. So like if you're trying to import, from like the root of your project, like octothorpe / I want to get out a thing. It's pretty nice. And they show you an example of how to do this. This has been a thing that people have wanted. It's pretty nice. It's a simple change actually in Node. It didn't take that much. If you go take a look at the source code for this, allow subpath imports to start with #/. It's a low effort change. It's pretty cool.
And the other thing that is mentioned is that, TypeScript developers are going to be familiar with like path mapping, right? Where I can import @ /, and that represents the root of my repo. But with this, you don't need path mapping. It just works in Node.
It just works.
That's interesting.
You don't have to do any TypeScript voodoo for project relative imports anymore.
Yeah. So I'm kind of interested in how that's going to work with the TSC compiler. So obviously it'll work in Node with type stripping, but I wonder how it would work if you're using a bundler or something like that. So that story might not be fully figured out quite yet. I think they were sort of discussing that in the PR when I was looking at it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Next up, via Rob Palmer again, Bjorn Liu on Blue Sky posted their tsconfig grimoire, which has a collection of sacred information to deal with tsconfig.json tooling, authors and maintainers. So this is pretty cool. This has a whole bunch of like what do all of the things do in a tsconfig, and what are the useful things to think about here. So it's kind of like a explain it to me like I'm 5, or maybe explain it to me like I've forgotten how tsconfigs work, and here are the important things to think about. And here's the kind of things that you would use these things or these things in the tsconfig for. So I am adding this grimoire to my bookmarks.
Yeah. I guess that's our secrets of the handbook, but it's a grimoire.
It's a grimoire.
Nice. I love the word grimoire.
Grimoire.
Feels good.
I feel so mystical.
Yeah, it's good. When I was doing consulting, I had a big Google Doc called the Consulting Grimoire. It's where I kept all my notes of everything.
All your spells.
That's right.
This one's kind of a funny one and kind of a sad one. This came across my feed on Blue Sky. Blue Sky user Worm.com, otherwise known as Titus, posts a graphic of how is ESM versus CommonJS going. And ESM only is up to 12.6% from 11.5%. And let's see, have we been going for almost a decade? Yeah, we've been going for a while. But they are noting that it's picking up speed. This is a half a year of Node 18 being end of life and making the require ESM available now, where you can require ESM packages in common modules, making the upgrade path less painful.
Nice.
So it's pretty cool. And you can see we're kind of getting this, we're accelerating our pickup of ESM.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the worst, but it's taking a long time.
I wonder, we're probably in that CJS category, aren't we?
We are a dual publish.
Dual.
Yeah. So we still dual publish ESM and common.
Nice.
Which we probably can drop the common now.
Because of require ESM.
Yeah. I think we can drop the common now. And I think most bundlers now, maybe Webpack not so much, but I have to look. But I think most bundlers now can just deal with ESM.
Webpack can. Yeah, I was using ESM with Webpack before I switched to RSPack.
Sweet.
Yarr.
Yeah, I think we probably can drop the common. That would actually like simplify our build like big time.
Put it on your to-do list.
It's on my, I have a huge to-do list over here. I'm shaking the piece of paper that is my to-do list.
Well, last but not least, there was a little teaser for Astro. The next release of Astro is going to support the Vite environment API. So this is not a release that's out yet, but the environment API PR was merged on December 4th. So that is coming soon. And it said, this is posted by Emma, Emmanuel. It took a long time because we had to re-architect the whole rendering pipeline. But with this, even the Cloudflare Vite plugin will work out of the box. So that's exciting.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Lastly, I have the funny bleat of the week from Jake Bailey, who seems to hold the top spot on most bleats of the week.
Joke Bailey,
but it's a picture of that meme where they have the double male power plug, but instead of that, it's union to intersection, union to array, and is equal. These are not made. They should never be made. We will not make them. We will not help you make them. So I thought that was pretty funny, which I have actually made those. I've made two of those. I can understand why they're cursed.
Yep. That's funny. Sometimes we can't get what we want, you know?
Yeah.
It happens.
Or I'm too dumb to know why that's a bad idea.
Yeah. It's we'll give you what you need, not what you want. Awesome. Do you have some cool links?
I have a lot of cool links. The first one I have, and this is on my Christmas list as well, Fabrizio Espindola.
I think so.
Oh, man.
Espindola,
I'm so sorry. Espindola. I probably should have practiced that before. But they have a Godot Shaders Bible book that I want for Christmas, but they have a free thing where they draw Ghastly, like the Pokemon Ghastly, in Desmos Calculator, the free online graphing calculator, it's basically shader code. So you could port this and draw Ghastly in shader code. And this is kind of fun. Like if you need to waste time as a student and you have access to Desmos as the graphing calculator, go and draw some Pokemon. It's pretty funny. Stephen Taub is back at it again. There's a great video on YouTube about cancellation tokens, and Stephen and Scott Hanselman go and re-implement cancellation tokens, which actually has a corollary to the web. Abort controller and abort signal are basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you watch that video and then go read the MDM documentation, some light bulbs will go off. Or you can read the MDM documentation and go watch the cancellation token video, and you'll understand some of the design decisions behind abort controller and abort signal and token source and cancellation token.
Yeah, this was on my watch list actually. I saw it in my recommendations as I was watching another one, and I was like, "Oop, I gotta watch that later."
Really good. It's worth the watch.
Nice.
And the last one I had, classic game Zork, is open sourced. You are likely to be eaten by a GRU. And I'll include the link to the blog post about it from Microsoft and the source code. And bonus, MC Frontalot's rap song inspired by You Are Likely to Be Eaten by a GRU, which is stuck in my head now.
Love it. I played it maybe a little bit. I never really got too into it, but I can appreciate it.
Good old text adventure.
Yeah. So speaking of old games that we appreciate, Doom has shown itself once again, not in TypeScript this time, but in C#. And this is actually pretty interesting. This is an engine, a Doom engine, and it was created so that you could run Doom mods on the GPU so that they have way better performance. Because the original Doom engine is software rendered. The thing about CPU rendering is that it is slow, like compared to the GPU. And that worked fine for Doom, but these modders, these creators have been creating like really wild levels and stuff like that push Doom to the limits. So frame rates and stuff were pretty poor on the original engine. And so this person created Helion, which is an engine that can run modern Doom mods and stuff like that. So that's pretty sweet. Related to cancellation tokens in .NET, I was the Azure Dev Summit was held recently, and they just released the videos, and there's some great ones. The one I was watching that's related to React2Shell, actually, is From JSON to RCE Modern .NET Serialization Attacks by Hampton Palk, who is also a fellow Pluralsight author. He actually works at Pluralsight, and he's a security researcher. So he doesn't do just .NET. He actually researches security across lots of different languages, but this one was about .NET. Very informative, super cool. It goes through the history of like when these attacks were introduced or how long stuff has been vulnerable. Did you know that there was a vulnerability in 2025 this year for a desktop utility that was a screenshot utility called GreenShot, and over 3 million people use it, and it was vulnerable to a deserialization attack that's been there for about 20 years, since .NET 1.0. And you know why? It's because they're using binary formatter, which you're not supposed to use. It's been deprecated for many, many years. And they were using it to deserialize IPC communication that sent image data, right? So you're sending your ping image in binary over inter-process communication to GreenShot. And when it deserialized it, it was using binary formatter, and that has RCE exploits up the kazoo. It's not secure at all. So they had to release an update to that. But it just goes to show that one of the points that he makes is legacy software still exists, and legacy software has vulnerabilities. And so it's a very interesting talk. And he also goes through JSON.NET and a few other things too, and sort of a history of those vulnerabilities and how they get fixed and how to exploit them and things like that. So super interesting talk. I also got 2 books for the holidays in case you want some cool reads. Architecture for Flow is a book by Suzanne Kaiser. And if you've ever heard her talks before, they're excellent. She speaks at GoTo. She speaks at lots of other things. It's about Wardley mapping, team topologies, and DDD, domain-driven design. So all 3 of my favorite topics all rolled into one, talking about software architecture. It's a must-buy for me, so it's on my list. And then I just saw another one this week endorsed by Suzanne, so similar, Orbit, domain-driven transformation. So this goes into more detail about DDD and how to migrate legacy software projects to DDD, which is really up my alley. Because I've been trying to learn more about DDD and implementing it and keep track of my games. And I have to say that so far, I'm really happy with how it's turning out. The architecture is much cleaner. I really like it. So looking forward to getting both of those books on my physical, on my desk, so I can read them and reference them.
We'll have to throw a party when we get your KTOMG stuff, like all the way off of .NET Framework.
That's right. Well, it's time for our Minnesota long goodbye. I feel like my takeaways are around security. I mean, what are yours?
Yeah. I mean, it's just been, I think one area that is overlooked a lot is deserialization, no matter your language, but especially if it's JavaScript right now. I think if you are, at a company and you have legacy software, you should definitely take a look at the libraries that you're running, because odds are if you're running any kind of like deserialization library, it probably had a vulnerability at one point.
Yes.
So you better be up to date on whatever one you're using. JSON deserialization is not the only attack vector, like gRPC.
Yep.
Like protobuf.
Yep.
Like Those are all
binary,
places.
Binary deserialization, yep.
So, go take a look and make sure that you're up to date. This is your PSA to update your libraries. And if you're running Next or React and you haven't heard the news, you got to get on that because it's being actively exploited by nation states right now.
Yes. I think one of the practical takeaways from all of this is to take a little vacation from whatever regular work you're doing at work, like set it aside and be like, hey, let's make sure that we've got security scanning. Let's make sure we've got like code analyzers that are watching for issues, because I realized that if you're using .NET Framework and modern .NET, Microsoft released code analyzers that can help you detect common vulnerabilities like this too in the code that you're writing. So it's like linting, right? But for .NET, which historically has not had like a great linting story, but now with code analyzers, it's starting to get much better. So modern .NET can be linted pretty well with these code analyzers. But like it'll tell you, oh, you're using type name handling, for JSON.NET. Don't do that. So it'll catch that type of stuff at development time. So there's like, it's defense in depth, right? It's what can you do with your local environment to secure it? Run stuff in Docker, run it in a VM, separate it out from your main machine somehow, whatever that might look like. Implement code scanning, implement supply chain scanning, linting analyzers.
I use a thing like socket.dev. After the last few rounds of Shai Hulud, like Kamran and I just run socket.dev.
Yep, it's running on my PRs now. Yeah.
Yep.
It's running locally.
So, not an ad.
No, I mean,
I'm
just find the tool.
I live in fear.
Yeah, find the tool that is going to work for you. I found socket.dev to be easy to use, but I think there's a few others that you can try. Sneak has some tools too, I believe.
Yeah, and then on the other side of it too, if you're not deploying like a WAF in like your like a web application firewall to catch those, mitigate those attacks, like novel attacks as they come into the wild, Cloudflare, notwithstanding the recent outage, that's like the best way to protect from an active attack is being able to recognize traffic patterns of an exploit and block them. Obviously you want to also go and upgrade all of the software, but that takes time. So a web application firewall is a great way to mitigate those attacks. Like when they become known, you can move really quickly.
Yes.
With web application firewalls.
Yeah. And I mean, despite the downtime, I'm still a happy Cloudflare customer because they protected me from bots before. I was looking at my stats a few months ago and I was like, oh my God, I'm getting so many new users per day. Oh yeah, this is great. I go look at them because I get notified for every single user that signs up, and the usernames are all like random characters. I'm like, uh-oh, this isn't good. And so
John Smith, bunch of numbers.
Yeah, so I implemented, like that day, I implemented a Cloudflare rule to block that stuff because it was coming from a well-known like IP region. And I think it's called an ASN, like an address network. So I blocked the address network and that mitigated it. And then I implemented Cloudflare Turnstile, which is their CAPTCHA stuff on the registration, right? So now I was able to mitigate that whole thing without changing much of my application code. And now I have Turnstile so that people have to go through that in order to register, and that fixed it, But I wouldn't have known unless I had the notifications and the infrastructure to do that.
Yeah. And if you're just like a solopreneur like we are, or a duopreneur, I don't know, I'm stretching it. Like a lot of these tools have extremely generous, like, open source dev or like, small company free tiers. So like Cloudflare has an extremely generous free tier, like absolutely, like haven't needed to upgrade yet.
Yep.
It's the paid tier of Cloudflare.
That's right.
Although if you're running your business on it, you probably should. But same with socket.dev, like those tools for like the open source engineer, the, non-corporate use case, like I'm just doing stuff on my own personal laptop. That is just super, super generous. Like it wraps NPM, it protects you from supply chain attacks, getting pwned. It scans stuff before it hits your machine. So it acts as like a proxy to protect you from NPM and from other things too. They also support like pip and NuGet and Cargo and, you name it, popular package manager. Like we said before, it's not just NPM. all these other package managers have similar problems.
All right, sir. I got to head off to bed.
Yeah, me too.
Sweet.
It's bedtime.
All right. Good night, y'all. Right. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. This is Kamran. I just wanted to thank you for listening to the show, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to see the show notes, you can check your podcast player or go to typescript.fm, where you'll see a list of all the episodes. If you enjoyed the show, tell your friends, and please rate it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, because that's how the show grows and gets discovered by more people. If you want to suggest news or a project that should be covered, or just want to say hi, email us at feedback@typescript.fm. If you want to follow us on social, we're both active on Blue Sky. I'm at comronicus.com, and Eric is at ericonerheim.com. You can also follow the show directly at typescript.fm.